Welcome back to the DNA Pest Control Podcast. Daniel here.
And Aaron's also here.
Awesome. Okay, well, we're back at it with National Pest Management Month, of course, and we have a great guest. I'm always excited, and actually now more excited because I just found out some awesome information. I had no idea. I won't give it away, though, so I'll let you, Aaron, introduce, and we'll get her in.
Yes, this is exciting for us on the show, but me specifically too, because this is the first time she's been on, but the second time that her and I have met. We actually met last year at the 2023 West Coast Rodent Academy. So today's pest guest, we have Sylvia Kenmuir. She is a senior technical services representative for BASF with over 30 years in the industry. So we'll kind of dive in on how that looks. Sylvia, can you hear us?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Of course. So something we always ask, just to jump off the bat, how did you get in the industry?
Yeah, so back in the day when you actually had newspapers and there were ads for jobs, that's how I got it. I was a student at Long Beach City College, and I was looking for a job, and I saw an ad for Target, and I thought it was the store, and they had just moved into California, and I thought, oh, I'm going to get this great discount. And when I showed up and I saw these pictures of bugs on the wall, I was like, what is this about? And they're like, we sell pesticides. And I was like, I'm actually an entomology student. And so started there answering phones, worked in distribution for 30 years, and then moved on to BASF now, where I'm a technical service representative.
Wow. Okay. So you didn't even mean to get into the industry.
No. And as an entomology student, you think somehow you're going to, college, you think you're going to like save the rainforest. You think you're going to, do something like that. And then you get into what we in the entomology side call the dark side, right? Because you're killing the bugs. You get this sort of stigma sometimes, but it was the best mistake I ever made.
Man, that is awesome. That's crazy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, now I have questions because I had no idea. So you started the Rodent Academy, or you brought the Rodent Academy over to California.
Yes. So I had, when I worked for distribution, I did all the meetings and coordinated all the events. If you've ever been to an old Target event, that was me. And then I had always worked with Bobby Corrigan. He had me come out to the New York Rodent Academy, which I still do it's twice a year. You guys ever want to go, we can connect. But I teach the rodenticide section there. And when we got Dr. Quinn here, it was like, we need this. We are under attack with rodenticides. I'm big on the legislative part here in the state. And so we sat down at a bar and wrote it down on napkins. I think Neve shares that story every time she talks. And that was me. And, 16 academies later, it was exciting for me to see that you did a whole podcast on it. So for anybody that ever wants to know what it's like, I agree. I'm glad you like the last day the best, because that's my baby, where we take you out and, do some fun scenarios. I do the communication talk, which I think is critical for our industry. So yeah, that's it.
Wow. The creator is on. I love it. What an honor for us to have you on. We do talk very highly of the Rodent Academy, actually.
Yeah, you did a good job. And I agree with your review. I mean, we're not going to be perfect, but I think that what I heard from you guys was what was my goal. I actually shared it with Neve last night because I'm like, did you listen to this? And she was like, no. And I'm like, this is awesome, because it's really what we hope to do. It's not going to be perfect, right? But it does try to bring you into a group that you will share information, learn that there's so much more to any pest we do, but this one, obviously rodents, and that you have to, you have to talk and share information, or we don't grow as an industry. If everybody keeps their information to themselves in their own little corner, we're not going to grow. And so I find that, I was really pleasantly surprised to see that you guys enjoyed it and that you got what I was hoping you got. So it was really, really great for me to hear.
No, awesome. Yeah. I mean, my experience. And then of course, Aaron sending him out with one of the other guys that we have here. I mean, it was a huge thing because I learned a ton. I mean, when I went out there, it was what I was taught originally to going out there. I was like, okay, I've been doing a lot of stuff really wrong.
Yeah. And don't say wrong. Say Just we have pest control in this very strict box, and that we, and we don't have a lot of places to train, and people don't share what they're doing and how they're growing. So I think it's really just a tune-up, right? We're just trying to help you tune up what you're doing and do it so that we can survive, especially in this state, right?
Yes, and you're right. I guess I shouldn't say wrong, because it wasn't wrong 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, what I was taught. That's what you did. It wasn't wrong necessarily, but it's not correct. Not today, at least. And in some of those, it's really actually kind of against the law of what they're teaching. And if you got caught, you'd get fined.
Correct.
But it's awesome that you actually created it and you went along with it and you kept up on it. And 17 years, I would assume later, because you only do one out here on the West Coast, right? So
we do 2 a year. So the math would be half of that. But I mean, it came from PCOC. They were like, I have this crazy idea. What do you think? And they're like, let's do it. And PCOC was great. And the Pest Control Operators of California was great in helping us get it started, with the support, right? Because you got to have an audience we don't do any marketing. We spend no money in marketing. It's all by word of mouth, social media, and getting people like yourselves to go out there and say, this is important, come. And so,
Oh man. No, it's great. Honestly, I mean, everything we say about it, it's get out, learn more. You need to get out there and really expand your knowledge. What you learn from, a very old technician who's been running a route isn't enough. There's so much more information out there than just that person, who's been doing it. So I'm a believer in it. I will go. Good. And hey, if we can get out there to New York, I would love to do that too.
Let's set it up, because it's twice a year. So I'll connect with you guys, because that is truly a life experience too. It's very different than West Coast in that, Dr. Bobby Corkin, amazing rodentologist, a lot of theory, right? But then you do get to go out in New York and look at stuff, but you don't come back in the same way our scenarios are, because for you guys to spend 3 days out of the field, I understand what it costs. I understand the financial commitment you guys have put in bringing somebody. I really wanted you to come back with some ideas on how to price things, how to look at jobs differently, talk to other people to hear how they are doing those things to make your business is better. So we're a little bit different, but you guys would love it. I'm telling you, it's a blast.
Oh yeah. No, when does the New York one happen?
So the next one is May. I think it's May 7th or 8th or somewhere in there. And then they'll do it again in November. And I'm blessed because I'm on the staff. It's a hard ticket to get. You have to enter a lottery. Then they pick the people because it's limited to 45 seats. But I will get you guys in. There you go.
Oh, please.
There we go.
Please, let's plan for November.
Yes. Yeah.
I'll do that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll definitely get out there. That would be really fun because I did see that. That's originally, I think, where I saw a lot of it come from Pest World and people talking is the New York. And then I saw that they had the West Coast and I'm like, well, I got to do it. Mm-hmm. And so I went actually out by myself and I'm like, well, I'm just going to check it out, see what it's like. And it was a blast. So from there, it's like, hey, when Aaron came on, I was like, dude, you got to go. You got to go check it out. So no, that would be a ton of fun. So when you came into the industry, were you ever focused on rodents or what was your main focus?
No, I'm an ant biologist. And so my funny story that I'll share with you is I'm a myrmecologist, myrmecology with a Y, not an E, not the girls that are with the fins, but ants. I'm an ant biologist. And what happened was, I think back in the middle of 2015 or something like that, Bobby Corkin couldn't speak somewhere. And he said, they called me and they say, oh, Bobby said you can do a talk. I'm like, oh no, I can't do this. I don't know. I know a little bit, but not enough to make myself, like I couldn't give a talk. And so spend some time in the field with some key accounts out there doing rodent work. And I'm not going to lie, in the beginning, I'm used to 6 legs and, no fur. And so I got out there and did inspections and trapping and baiting and learned, what I needed to. I know the science part because that's where I studied that part, right? So I did the rodenticides, and I gave a talk, and I have been labeled the rodent girl ever since. But I love when someone says they want me to talk about bugs and ants. It's like, oh my gosh, thank you. This is what I really went to school for. But I understand. There's not a lot of people that do rodents, so it's not my study area.
Okay. And it doesn't sound like it's your passion either.
No, it's not. It's important, right? Because we all do things. You're right. You guys have your favorite pests, right? The ones that make you're like, oh my God, this is great. It's an ant job or a bed bug job or whatever it is. And for me, the ants have always been, where I love, because they're just amazing insects. But it's and when we get to the funny story part, I've got a great one for the ants.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Well, we will get to that.
Yeah.
So now in BASF, how long have you been with them?
Been 5 years.
Okay,
and there was nothing, it's just, when you do something for a very long time, and look at you guys, right? You guys have been in the pest industry, you're doing this because you want to grow. Yeah. I just didn't have anywhere to go with distribution. I'd done it all. So it was like, I would love to be able to do the research part. Mm-hmm. I never went to school to get a PhD. I'm a master's degree. But I thought, if I could get on the research part, that would be amazing. BASF took a chance on me. I do field research. So basically the products get registered. And then we know that they work in a lab, right? We give you all this data that tells you, oh yeah, in a perfect setting, it works. Mm-hmm. But now we take that product and we go to Arizona in, 115 degrees. Does it still work? Do we go to the Pacific Northwest where it's raining half the year? Does it work? And so my job is to make sure those products still perform. And if they, if there's a better way to make them perform, then that's my job, is to go out there and train. And so that's basically what I do, which I hate to say that dream job word because you hate to hear that, but it really has been a blast. I've had so much fun.
So you're out in the field actually seeing if these products work. So, well, okay. I mean, now let's just get into it. Now I have a lot of questions. Let's do it. You're just opening this up. So when BASF is coming up with a product, of course, they're going to create the product. So you have your group of scientists doing their thing. What does that process look like from, hey, we need to create something new, to now out in the field, actually testing it, licensing it, throwing it out to, us as technicians? I don't think we even know. I don't know. Yeah.
So we have a great little story that I started talking about. Was it takes an active ingredient about 12 years to go to market. And that's, now let's not talk about California, right? That's a whole nother conversation. But let's just say for everyone else, they get it in about 12 years. Okay. And they start off with, they start off with a ton of products, maybe 260 actives. They take it through the day one that you register that as your active. That's when your patent starts. And so as a primary manufacturer, the clock is ticking. Okay. $260 million later, you get one product. And then from there, you've gone through all the EPA testing. EPA wants you to make sure you kill spiders. They have protocols. So every single pest that you see on a label had a set of protocols that we had to do in the lab or with private labs throughout the country to get the data in to support putting a pest on the label. And so that's what we do. And then from there, we're getting ready. So maybe in the next couple of years, we have a combination product we're coming out with. Okay. And so then now my job is to go out and make sure that it's working. Once it gets registered, it's like, hey, what are the best uses of this product? Does it really truly kill scorpions, and how long? And so that's what my role is. And then once we launch the product, which is typically at a pest world, then we then go from there and just help you understand what are those best uses and how does it fit in your programs.
Gotcha. Okay. So that is, wow.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money to bring chemistry. So, it's kind of scary. I'm not going to lie for us basic manufacturers, because there are a lot of generics out there. Once it comes off patent, then anybody can formulate it. And, we believe who formulates it is important with something we believe. But the challenge is that, that was 12 years. You're bringing something along and it's 12 years. If, for instance, for rodenticides, you probably won't see a new active for that market, because the pressure for regulatory is so high and the risk becomes so high that they're just not willing to take it, which is truly unfortunate, because, at the end of the day, we all still have board of directors that want, we're all in business, right? That's just the way it is. And so it's been sad for us, because, the actives really go through a lot of scrutiny now, because they're looking at viability, sustainability, and in making sure that we're able to actually bring something that will be, be able to use.
Yeah, no, I mean, that would be a huge risk. And yeah, no, I totally understand the business side of it, because you're going to go and spend $250 million to bring a product to market. And they're like, oh, by the way, it's done. It's like, okay, well, we're just out all that money. Correct. And for you guys, it'd be like you putting together this whole side of business where you were going to do whatever it is, rodent control. And then they say, hey, you can't do rodent control anymore. I mean, all of that money gets, sort of lost. And so it really is unfortunate. We are seeing some restrictions that are kind of handcuffing the manufacturers or the registrants. But, hopefully now we can continue to still bring new products out there. And, it's hard for sure. Oh, no. Well, and it's actually, I mean, it's not a good situation, but it's refreshing to hear that not only are we going through it as the technicians using the products, because it's frustrating for us when they go and create all these, laws and regulations and get strict when they're selling a lot of these products to the public that could be causing a lot of the issues. And it's kind of like, well, is it really us? Is it really the guy that we have to get licensed to do all this? Yes. So. Yes. And you're right, because as a registrant, the more restrictions we put on the product, it falls to everybody. So if we make something restricted use, that makes it harder for you too. Now you have in some states reporting licenses, and we're going to see that if EPA makes all rodenticides a restricted use, you're going to see some pains. And so I think people get frustrated because they go online and they see, one of our products on there. If we make it harder for the general public, we make it harder for you too. So we walk this fine tightrope of how do we make it so that we get it to the right people. So like on some of our products, you'll see a stewardship box. It's not a box it says, for licensed pest control companies. It's really not anything that has any teeth. Like, it's not enforceable, but we're trying to deter the general public from using our products, because we really feel that they need to be in professional hands. It's tough. Yeah, no, I get it. As the manufacturer, I mean, I just spent $260 million to create this product. Yeah, I'm going to sell it to everyone. Right. I mean, right. I understand it. Yeah, you're right. But I don't think you go past that. The general public don't care. I mean, it's the whole Roundup story, everything like that. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, what'd you expect? That you were not going to get cancer if you were drinking the product? Like, everything was going to be okay. By the label, right? I saw your whole label episode. The label's the law, right? Yeah, and most, the general public doesn't know that. I didn't know that. No. I was probably a kid spraying Raid with no gloves on or a mask, and it's just like, whatever. It is what it is. I can buy it at the store. I can spray it at home. Yeah. Correct. So, no, I totally understand that. But that is really interesting to kind of see that process of finally when it gets to us, and it's a 12-year process. In California, how long is it? Oh, we had another 5 years easily. Really? 17 years? Yeah, you'll read a trade magazine and go, oh, that's cool. Yeah, I'm not going to see that. It's like, we have California. That's one of the things about California, their own EPA, their own set of data that they require. And so it's definitely something that takes just a little bit longer, unfortunately. Yeah, that is one of the sad things. We go to Pest World and we're like, oh, cool, this product. They're like, oh, where are you? And we're like, oh, we're in California. They're like, yeah, sorry. Yeah, not yet. Yeah. We're working on it. We're sorry is generally what we say. Yeah, that's it. That's all you can say. Oh, my gosh. Okay, so ants is your passion. Yes. Well, actually, before I move on, did you want to ask anything about the manufacturing side?
Not yet.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I didn't want to jump ahead because that kind of veered off. I didn't even plan to ask that question. So thank you, Sylvia. Sure. So ants, you got in, your focus has been ants, everything about ants. I actually just learned some things about ants. And so this is going to be a fun little talk.
Oh, we did.
Right. We did actually just talk with all of our guys about some ants.
Yes.
So this is going to be good. Let's talk about carpenter ants.
Okay.
Let's go basic stuff, because we actually deal with them quite a bit out here.
Correct. They're the number one ant. And when you look in the United States, it's the number one ant, native ant, right? And so, the challenge with carpenter ants is they've learned that they have this satellite colony network where they don't have one place. It's kind of like hide and seek with the queen. Let's hide her here and away and safe. And then we're going to send all of these other little fake colonies, so to speak, or these little, you think you got it because you see eggs and you see a lot of the typical area things that you would see in a nest where you have frass and insect parts and so forth, and you think you got it. Fake colony, because the queen's not in there. She's somewhere, maybe even as far as, a couple miles away, and she's hiding out. And so that's the hard part with carpenter ants, is that you always feel like you got them, but unless you really find that primary colony, it's hard because she's still producing eggs.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, for as basic as that is, I did not know that.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, and I think that's part of the challenge with carpenter ants, is that they're considered a wood destroying organism. They don't consume it, right? But they excavate it for nesting. Yeah. But it's that whole idea of looking at, following those trails and being able to figure out, do I think I got the primary colony, or is this going to be a recurring? And that's where, when we look at baiting, bait generally gets back to the primary colony. It's like somehow they pay rent still, so they're still sending food to the primary colony, and that's why baiting is such a great technique. It's just slow because that bait's got to get over there and then get through everybody.
Wow. Okay, I did not know that. Now, I do have a question, because we use a bait, and I have tried with carpenter ants, and they do not touch it.
Okay, well, part of the challenge with bait is that they have to like the matrix more than what they're normally feeding on, right? And so, we saw a study not too long ago from Clemson where they looked at not only what the bait's made of, right? Because you've heard they're sugar feeding ants or they're protein feeding ants. Mm-hmm. But he looked at texture. Like, does texture matter? Like, if you're an apple eater, do you like a softer apple? Like, I like the red ones because they're softer, but some people like that crisp green apple, right? That you're going to get a crunch out of. Yeah. And so ants are similar. And so if they're not taking a gel bait or they're not taking a liquid bait, because maybe whatever they're eating is better than that, then, granular bait tends to be one that they like. And, we happen to have one. And so he did the study on texture, and it found that a lot of ants really like the texture of what they're eating. So you got to offer choice. Because if they're eating plant sap and you've got a liquid or a gel that's similar and the plant sap's better, they're going to take that. But if they're looking for something else, sometimes offering a different texture of bait that has a toxicant is going to be the way to solve those problems.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
That is good to know.
Very good.
Sure.
Yeah, because you know what? That was always one. I would always use the same bait and nothing. So I'm like, okay, well, guys, don't use bait anymore. So yeah, and you can do your own science. Like this study, he took CDs because, what do you do with that stack of CDs that you bought in, 1990, and you got this big thing, right? So they took CDs and they put all the bait on and they spun it around as a choice bait, right? Like putting it in different directions because believe it or not, rodents, everybody has a different direction that they enter. Like if you had your refrigerator in the middle, there's going to be a side you prefer to go into. And so the same for ants, they're going to pick a side, but you can truly spin that around and see what they take and then, pick the bait from there. But yeah, I know it's a lot of work and, we don't always have that time, right? No, we don't. But, that's part of it too. Cause we go out and at least that's the big part of our, education to customers is, hey, I don't know if it's going to work. I hope it works. We're talking about a living organism. And I'm trying to get rid of them. I don't know if this is what they like or if that's what they like. I hope, but we're going to have to try a couple different things. If it works the first time, cool. And
that's huge with customer communication. I think they can appreciate, to some extent, that we are dealing with living organisms. They're all different. And that that magic wand we used to have that we can just isn't going to work for everything, right? And so I think communication is critical in explaining how complex some of these ants are, or the fact that they may, even especially carpenter ants, you may have a satellite colony that they've sort of set up shop. And it may be beyond your property line. So what do we do there? And then that's where you can take some of the properties of the chemistry. Like if you figured out it's the neighbor next door and you can't get them on service, well, then use a pyrethroid and put up a wall so that way they can't get over. I mean, there's things you have to play around with. And the beauty of our industry is we have a lot of fun chemistries that we can make work for us when we have situations that are beyond our control.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that is awesome. And I do have a question because I forgot the words for it. Is when the ant colony is all the same size, everything, what is it called?
Monomorphic. So mono meaning one, morphic meaning body type, right? Polymorphic, different sizes.
Polymorphic. Oh.
Monomorphic, polymorphic.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I was trying to tell my guys that yesterday. I'm like, I can't remember it. I'm like, I totally forgot.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you for the carpenter ants. Do you suggest any liquid products for carpenter ants or treatments like that or dusts or anything?
It's really not so much, you really, for me with ant control, and there's a whole debate on whether they are repelled by anything. I find that if you, especially trying to do a combination of baiting, you don't want to keep the ants away from the bait, right? I talked about that barrier using something like a pyrethroid to keep them on one side of the wall, but a non-repellent is going to be your best action when it comes to ant control because you can use it in conjunction with bait. And then, they don't detect it. So they pick it up, they're social, they're going to transfer it. Transfer is something that happens by just contact and touching them. They remove their dead, right? They have their dead graveyards. And so if you can get a non-repellent to work for you, then that's going to be helpful. And that's where, if you look at our portfolio of products, many of them are non-repellents, and they're all really good ant products.
Which is one of the best ant products you would suggest? And you can say BASF products. It's okay.
Okay. So for carpenter ants, I would say Alpine WSG is one of my favorites. For just because you can put it, and you look at the label, it's very generous. You can move off structure. You can use it. There's no retreatment interval. If you've got a really bad situation where you can't do it all in one day and maybe you have to go back sooner than you'd like, and that's something you've charged for, you're able to do that. Termidor is definitely the standard for ant control, especially if you're dealing with Argentine ants. But sometimes, it's hard to figure out where those carpenter ants are going, so you can go off structure with Alpine. So I would have to pick Alpine WSG.
Perfect. Okay. We use both of those products. So
yes, we do.
So we're very familiar with it.
You're so smart. Well, you're so smart.
Oh, thank you. Now, I will say something, though, is, and I've actually had this happen, so you can debunk this if this is just a fluke out in the field. I have used too much Alpine, and I have killed the ants, and I have not eliminated the colony because of that.
Yeah. Yeah, the rates, we have these rates, right? 10, 20, 30 grams. And I think that if you look at our label for ants, it's generally in the 10 gram rate, except Argentine ants, because of the numbers, I think you have to go a little bit higher sometimes because you're talking about, millions of workers. Carpenter ants, you're not talking about that much, but you can. If you kill ants too quickly, and that's often what happens with pyrethroids because they're a contact knockdown kill, they'll stay away from the area. They don't have any recruitment. They're like, oh, those girls died, we're not going anywhere near there. And so they're super smart insect. And so they will detect that. And if they can move and they don't die off and it's not at too high of a rate, then you're going to get them to transfer it. So you certainly can take up non-repellent and overkill it. And so you really have to kind of judge that rate. So I would say any of the ants that aren't in these, what we would call these super or mega colonies, like odorous house ants or Argentine ants, probably going to have to go at a little higher rate if you're in middle of the high season like summer. But if you're looking at the general other ants, and that's where I put carpenter ants, the lower rate's going to be fine. It really is. I don't want you to overuse. I know these products aren't cheap, right? And so I don't want you to overuse what you don't need. And so certainly you can do that for sure. You saw what can happen.
Yeah, no. And that's it. That's a big thing I wanted actually to throw out there. And I'm glad that you confirmed that too.
Yeah.
Because there's so many technicians even here, and I know out in the field, they think, well, I'm going to put a little bit extra, they take their NyQuil shot at night. They feel sick. They're like, well, I'm going to take 2, so I can sleep extra good. And it's, hey, there's a reason why these products, and you're testing them. So,
Correct. Correct.
Yeah. But that's the idea. It's like, hey, you don't need more. More doesn't always mean better.
No, you are correct. And that's why those rates are really important. And then also don't play the label game, right? Where you took the shot of NyQuil and then you went, but I'm going to also take, this tablet too, because so you're still playing with rates of products that are not, that's that cocktail making where you're just sort of taking 2 things. You're still following the label, but you're taking 2, you're still doing the same thing. Gotcha, so, it's really important to not do that either. Yeah,
no. Yeah. And that's, usually we stick to singular or we're going like IGR mixes with something, but
correct.
I never even thought to go Termidor Alpine. Let's see how this works.
Yeah. Generally here's my problem is that, if you don't know what truly works then, and then, I've got a lot of guys throwing a lot of stuff in a tank, it's not a cocktail, just stick to the, drink it neat. All right. Just drink it neat.
Yep. Oh yeah. True. Yeah, we call it the super juice.
The alcohol, not Alpine.
Yeah, no, please don't. Oh my goodness. No, that is good, and that is great because there's so many people that do. They're technicians. We have a big base of our listeners are technicians out in the field. They're single owners. They're running this, and they have no idea. They know that the product works because that's what they just were taught, and they've seen it, but they don't really know anything else besides that. They don't know any of the science behind the product and how it even works. And speaking of Alpine, and then I want to go back to Argentine ants because I have some questions about those guys because we just talked about them. But how does Alpine work, and how I know there's the transfer effect, but even though it's transferring, it's not killing them, not yet.
Yeah, so it works in the nervous system, right? There's lots of parts of the nervous system that our chemistries work in. They not all work on the same part of the nervous system. And so it's working on the neonics are working on the nervous system. And so, we can get so complicated here, and I'd rather not. It's just working on a different part of the nervous system than, say, pyrethroids, which are working on sodium chloride channels, these gates that open and then they stop them, right? Yeah. So it's working on a different part. And really, it does take time. It's not a knockdown product. We say that because if you look at, there's like yellow jackets and paper wasps on there, and people are like, really? And I'm like, it's not a knockdown. But if you've got them entering a structure and you cannot figure out if they're in that wall or if they're coming from somewhere else, you can use, even Termidor has those entering structure label on there. It's not going to knock them down, but they're going to pick up that material, and because they're social, they're going to take that back to the nest and get everybody else, to where they transfers. And so I think that the slow part is good because you want that product to work for you. I love when products work on behavior, and we can work smarter, not necessarily work harder.
Yeah, no, that is awesome. So when it gets onto their body, they're picking it up. Are they eventually ingesting it, or is it?
They can because they groom, right? And so what'll happen is, there's a lot of grooming with antennae are really important. So you'll see they take that antennae and put it in their mouth and clean it because it's really important sensory organ for them. They get it on their feet, they groom. And so as they groom and as they, if they have contact, it will definitely get through the exoskeleton, but there's through consumption as well. They can get it. And then, if you've ever watched ants, close up, you can see there's a lot of grooming, group grooming, and a lot of stuff that they do together that they're able to transfer that material. And Dr. Rust here at UC Riverside did that original transfer study to show what we call passive transfer. Active transfer would be taking the bait and putting it in your mouth and feeding you. That's actively moving the toxicant.
Okay. Wow. Okay. That's good to know. Very good to know. Okay, so now you guys out there know a little bit more of what you're spraying and how it works and why it works, you know, in the way it does.
Yeah.
So with Argentine ants, I was reading up on it and doing a little research. So they have like a super colony. So do you want to explain like what that is and like the mega colonies and the super?
Yeah. Okay. So Dr. Neil Tsutsui he was at San Diego. Now he's at Cal Berkeley. They actually did all, you know, the thing that beautiful about entomology is if we get something wrong, we fix it immediately. Like it's that day, it's no longer this. And so, you know, they do a lot of DNA testing, and they were able to figure out that they took ants as far as Alaska and as far down as Mexico, and they figured out they're all related, that they figured out how to, it's just craziness, right? They also did it in Europe, where they figured out like the whole coast of Spain and Portugal, they're all related. And basically they recognize each other as nestmates. And, you know, in ants' normal biology, if you go to like Argentina, you know, they are fighting each other. They're defending turf and territory and food resources. Here, they've been able to figure out that they've been able to sort of trick each other so that they're nestmates, and they all are coming from one, that they recognize them. So genetically, they're not all the same specifically, but they've mimicked it to be able to do that. And so they figured out they're all related. So when we talk about colony elimination, you know, the challenge is that can you really do that? Like, you know, I'm down here, you know, living in Irvine, and can you actually, you know, can I solve your problem? Well, you know, you can't take out the whole colony, but what you can do is defend that structure. And I think that's important. We have in California at least 2 ants that do that. We have odorous house ant, and we have Argentine ant. We have a native ant, the odorous house ant, that's learned that, hey, these girls are really good at this. We're going to do this too. So they're doing it. Argentine ants have mastered that. And so as they change their behavior and do this, you have to be really careful what you're guaranteeing or promising that customer, because is it realistic?
And do they have multiple queens?
So they do. For every 100 workers, you'll have 10 queens.
What?
That's a lot.
Yeah. And this is the cool thing. Like, this is the super cool part about ants. So Argentine ants, what they do typically this time of year, because everybody's always asking, when should I put down my Termidor application for, you know, to get through the summer? And it's coming, right? As soon as we get through these rain, everyone's on my family too. Like, when should we have the pest control come out and do that treatment? You said it's soon. And so at about now, they execute the old queens so that new queens come up and have that max egg potential. Is that crazy stuff?
So they're like, okay, you know what? You're old, you're done, you're dead. And we're bringing on the fresh new one.
Yes, we need the new queen. Isn't that crazy? But they execute them. They kill them so that and the pheromones in the colony recognize they don't have enough queens. And so then new queens come up and they're ready to roll in the summer.
That is insane.
That's incredible.
That's cool. I mean, but you know what? Ants are one. I know there's been a lot of, you know, talk on social media and stuff like that. I know Joe Rogan did it. He talked about ants, but they're insane. I mean, they are like pre-programmed, the pheromones, everything. It's all the chemical changes, and then it just starts going, and it creates something so insane. But I had no idea about the Argentine
They're
ants.
just the most amazing insect. My favorite ant is the crazy ant. So I like Paratrechina longicornis, fancy name for black crazy ant. And what's so cool about them is that they you know, they're walking around, they're fine. Something comes up and it looks like they're going to eat them, and they just act crazy. They move erratically. They raise their stomach up. They take their antennae, and you think about us, right? If you're walking down the street and all of a sudden somebody acts crazy, you like. Right? You get away from that person. They do the same thing, but they're a bug.
They're just like, oh no, here we go. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Let's go back to the Argentine ant, because I know we have quite a bit, you know, here, especially in Sacramento area. Is it kind of the same, you know, at least for me, I use baits. So a lot of gel baits works really good. At least in my experience. What do you suggest that they should use in treating ants and those ones specifically?
So you're right. Baits can work, but the question would be then, are we dealing with a very urban area that maybe everybody's not doing ant control? And then you start going through the gallons of bait because the level is up here, right? And then you're trying to match that level with a bait. So certainly indoors baits work well, yes. but you're going to have to defend the structure in another way because these numbers are so high, and because if the neighbors aren't doing anything about their ants, your customer is still going to have issues. So that's where you're really looking at, can I use maybe further out of the structure where I'm not going to lock ants in. Maybe I use a pyrethroid out there on, in that area. And then maybe, and of course there's a lot of rules, right? You got to follow the rules, yes. But then maybe up against the structure to protect it, I'm using that annual, or that every 6 month Termidor application, or then indoors I'm using, a non-repellent like Alpine. And I think a blending of techniques, especially with Argentine ants, is important because the numbers are so high. Okay. I remember when I first came in the industry, one of the baits that we used to sell in distribution was taro, and they had a gallon size. And I'm like, who's using a gallon? But I mean, if you're trying to feed all of the ants in California, you could be going through gallons.
Yeah. No, we actually had taro when I first got into the industry, and they had taro. It was
in a gallon.
Yeah,
gallons.
They had them in big sizes, not your little syringe that they have now.
Because the numbers are so high, and so so is that something you really want to do? So it's like at that point you definitely can use baits, but again, it's going to be a matter of supply. I mean, even with every pest, you can't run out of bait. That's a missed opportunity. So I think blending it with the non-repellents close around the structure, and then moving away from the structure if you can, a non-repellent. I think it's really. And early, what happens is we wait until the phone rings in July, right? And it's, it's hot and the numbers are already high, right? Because I told you they executed the queens, they're ready for this. Yeah. If you didn't reduce those numbers at about this late spring, early summer, it's going to be a tough summer for you. And we got a lot of rain, right? So we always expect these to be big ant years.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That is
so true.
Okay. That's awesome. Thank you for all that information on the carpenter ant, the Argentine ant. This is great. This is actually
soaking it all in right now. It's so cool.
I know. I'm overwhelming. I know.
No, it's awesome. Don't be.
Yeah, no, this is actually one of the best parts, and this is what I love when it comes to like the podcast and being able to go and take courses and talking to people who actually study this. This is you're dedicated for 30 years of learning this. And you get a tech who just jumps in and he's like, are there ants? Spray Alpine. That's what you got to do. They have no idea what they're even destroying or how they're controlling it or their behaviors. And they're just like, I hope it works.
Right. And they're taking your word, right? And my favorite thing to tell people in a class, if you've ever heard me speak, it's like I tell people, look, if you hated chemistry, biology, and math in high school, the joke's on you. You have a very technical position that you have to know enough about all of that to be able to really do the job correctly.
Yeah. Yeah, no. And it's so true. So thank you for sharing all of that and, everything that you have, because there's so much knowledge up there. So we're going to have you on like a dozen more times.
So I have my own little podcast too. So I'm the one that did the Ace, right? During COVID, it was my little hobby. And so I have I didn't do it like you guys are doing it, because this commitment, it's a huge commitment. So thank you for doing this. Because I just recorded Sunday morning. I got up with my coffee and just did the Ace classes, because it's a hard exam, the associate certified entomologist. Yeah. And I did 30 episodes, and, it's just for people listening in their car. And I thought, there's no way this is going to work. And, it's been great. I hear from all the time people go, oh my God, I'm studying for my ACE and I'm listening to your podcast. Thank you. They're not fancy. I don't have any music or anything. I just talk for 20 minutes.
Yeah, no, that's awesome though.
Yeah.
I mean, that's absolutely, Well, we'll have to talk about that too, because we'd love to, push that even, on our side, because anything that can help the industry and guys really learn, I'm all for it. All for it.
Agreed. 100%.
Yeah. So, I was going to ask, and I just went away. Aaron, you're going to have to take over.
No, you're fine.
You want my funny story?
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to ask.
Okay,
Thank you.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah. So one of the ways that you collect ants and I wish I would have brought it with me. I didn't realize we're going to be on screen too.
Okay.
But it's called an aspirator. So web search it. It's called an aspirator.
Okay.
And it's this little tube that's connected to a rubber tubing.
Okay.
And you have a little part that you put down on the ground. And basically, it's the way you can collect ants without squishing them. And so you suck in, and and the ants go into the tube without you sucking them in because there's a screen.
Yeah.
And it's a great way to collect. And I was out on a job trying to, some weird ants, and you're trying to figure out what they are. And I'm going to say, let's figure out who it is.
Yeah.
Obviously, the tools are not working, right? So, but I was late for my office time. And so I threw my aspirator in the back seat. I'm going the freeway, probably. I'm not in a company car, but my own car, but too fast. Get pulled over. The cop's like, all right, you're going pretty fast. Yeah, I was out in the field. And he looks in the back seat. And so he's like, hey, could you get out of the car? And so I get out of the car. He's like, so how you feeling? I go, I'm great, late.
Oh, no.
And he's like, so what's in the back seat? We're going to have to inspect your car. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. And so I look and I see it's the aspirator. And he's like, so you want to tell me a little bit about that? I go, oh, it's to collect ants. He's like, sure it is. I'm like, no, it really is. And he goes, sure. And I go, no, can I demonstrate it? It's not going to hurt you. And so he lets me get it out of the car. I'm like, see, I go, so there I am on the side of the 60 freeway, sucking ants, showing the cop that it's an aspirator. And he says, oh my God, I thought I saw it all. Just go. Have a nice day.
Like, I'm good. I don't even care.
Yeah.
This is enough.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So ants saved my bacon that day.
Yeah, right?
There we go.
Oh
Yes.
my. Yeah, I'm going to have to look that up. So I'm assuming it looks like some drug type of thing.
It does. If you know what, after I looked at it and I got back to the office, they're like, oh yeah, Sylvia, that totally looks like some drug paraphernalia. And it's really to collect small insects.
Ah, that is so interesting. I didn't even know that you would do that. So you're just
yeah.
you're just sitting on the ground sucking up a bunch of ants.
Oh yeah, there I am on the side of the freeway, and the cop was just shaking his head, and I go, look, we got some, and he's like, yeah, just go.
I believe you. Just go.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Okay, that is actually awesome. Okay, so we got your favorite ant. This is a crazy ant.
Mm-hmm.
Your drug story.
Yeah.
So now
alleged drug story. It was my ant collecting story.
You never got ticketed or arrested.
No.
So what would you say is the most dangerous ant?
So in the world, it's the bullet ant. That's the one that that Dr. Justin Schmidt, the pain index. If you're a Marvel fan, you know about the Schmidt index of pain, right? He recently passed away, but he used to get stung and then rated, and he's got a whole index. Yeah. But that's the bullet ant. But in US, it would still be the red imported fire ant, and it's an important ant because it's all over. We have it, in California, Texas, and mostly in the southern states, and it stings by numbers, right? And people are allergic to it. It can be very painful, and that would probably be the number one ant we're dealing with in the US. But worldwide, it's probably the bullet ant. If you ever Google that one, it's got these big old mandibles and painful sting, and it's not a nice ant. Okay,
so the imported red fire ant. Okay.
Yeah, red imported fire ant for US. It's imported, obviously. Yeah. We have them everywhere. They're not going away, and it really can be. I think a handful of people every year close to dying, or there used to be more, but I think they figured out they're a pretty bad ant, and so. But yeah, that would be it. Red imported fire ant.
Yeah, and that was a big thing on, at least when I was taking the test for branch 2 here in California. That was, they really pushed, this ant. Is it because it's deadly to people, or is it more because of other species that it's killing or running, is there something else there? Okay.
Yeah, both. So if you're allergic to a bee sting, you're likely allergic to some extent to an ant sting. And then because they're Hymenoptera, same order. Okay. But with red imported fire ant, they get into places where there's the infirmed, where they can't move, and then they're repeatedly stinging these people, children, they get stung. And if they have that anaphylactic reaction, that they can die. But then you get the bird people. We're never really in agreement with some of these groups, but like Audubon's our pal here, because they get into bird nests and they just obliterate them. There's big numbers. Oh, wow. They sting. They're aggressive. We haven't had the explosion in California that we thought because of the Argentine ants, because Argentine ants are like, hey, this is our territory. And so they,
cool.
there's a lot of those wars going on, ant wars.
Okay.
But they still in some areas are the number one pest. And so because of that public health issue and because of the fact that they do attack wildlife, they're like a double whammy. And in every test you will find, even if people, when they take the ACE and they're in New York, they're like, we don't have imported fire ants. I'm like, yeah, well, it's an important ant to the United States. So you're going to get tested. Know who they are.
Yeah. I mean, I had to learn about them. I had to figure out, they're like, if you find them, you got to report it to the ag department. And,
Correct.
So they made a big deal, but I never understand. And they never, really explained why. They just said, you need to. I'm like, okay.
Correct.
I mean,
correct. Yep. That's why.
Yeah. No, that's good to know because they don't tell you sometimes why. So,
no, here's this big stack of books, learn them all, and then come back and take a test so you can, can run around. It's a tough one for me. I feel like there should always be support on the why, but just never happens.
No, they just tell you this is how it is and that's it. So, yep. Okay, awesome. So what are kind of some big plans for you in the future? I mean, what does that look like?
Yeah. So, still trucking along with BASF. I'm having a blast. This year, my whole goal has been hands-on presentations. So if anybody's seen me, they see that I'm doing hands-on stuff. We did termites and we drew lines and showed how they follow pheromone trails. So I'm all about bringing the science and practicality there. But I will be working on, I mentioned I do the ACA's podcast. I am going to do something for the Public Health Entomology Certificate. Okay. That is also through the Entomological Society of America. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to do a similar kind of podcast where it's just going to be 20 minutes, listen while you're driving around, and hopefully some of it sticks and you can study for it. So I'm going to be doing that probably at the end of May.
Oh, awesome. Do you have a name for it yet?
I said, it was Ace the Ace with Sylvia Kenmuir. And so it was Ace. I just said pass the PHE. I'm just, I just made it really simple. I'm not fancy, kind of like you guys, you just say what it is. And so it's going to be pass the PHE with Sylvia Kenmuir.
No, that's perfect. And thank you for throwing that out there. Everyone who is listening, definitely go and check it out. Listen, because it's all good information. It's great stuff and soak it up. It's only going to make you better out in the field and whatever you're doing.
100%. Totally agree.
No, awesome. Sylvia, I guess before we come to a close, Aaron, was there anything you wanted to ask?
Yes, actually. Just first of all, it is very refreshing having, someone like you on, because Daniel and I talk about it a lot, about the importance of sharing information and, getting away from like that hands in the pocket, like hush, hush, because we had a guest on who made it clear. It's like, hey, the rising tide raises all the ships. Like, the better we all get, the better everything else gets. Mm-hmm. And you just had your PCO legislative week here in Sacramento.
Yes.
So something that I'm over here on the business side is, training you guys on how to communicate, what we're doing to the public, which from Rodent Academy, that's something that like really, really stuck with me. Like I'm on ride-alongs with guys and, they're placing bait stations or they're applying a certain pesticide and customers like, is it safe? And I'm like waiting for it. And they were like, yeah, it's safe. And I was just like completely like,
You're like, don't say the S word. This woman at Rodent Academy said, don't say the S word, right?
Yep. Think about you saying safe when used as directed. Don't even say the S word, but if you're going to say it, use that.
Yes.
So I guess my question is, in the past year and a half since I took that class, we have so many different customers from so many different backgrounds where, they're like, I don't care, kill them all, I'll stay in the house. And some of it's like, they want us to break down the entire label for them. Mm-hmm. California, we're obviously seeing that shift more towards the latter, right? And I just want to know how challenging that has been for you. And, you're trying to get legislature on board and then, from the manufacturer side and then implementing it to your customers. I mean, obviously it's good challenges, but how does that look like for you?
Yeah. Communication, our industry has really have to get better, right? We really do need to communicate with our customers. I tell everybody and they laugh at me. I'm an introvert in an extrovert job. When I am in with you guys, or I am talking, or I am, working training with technicians, it comes on, right? Hey, this is what, and I'm giving the information. When I'm by myself, I'm quiet. I'm not that person, but you have to be. And I think it's really important to practice that. Your customers can buy pretty much everything that you use, whether we like it or not. And they think they can do our job better. And so what they're buying from you and the services they're buying is knowledge, right? And so it's really important to, spend some time listening to things like this podcast, try and improve your knowledge base so that you can really take that moment. You're on a job 20 minutes, if you're lucky, try to really show them what value you're bringing when it comes to not only applying the products, but the knowledge base of being able to explain to customers. And, my goal has always been to not take it and make it so science that you're like Yon City. It's really, what are those key biology, tidbits that I can share with my customer that they're going to go back and, chat GPT it or whatever and go, oh my God, that guy was right. Or that gal was right. And so I think that's really what's important, and be excited about it. I heard some of those podcasts where guys were talking about the inspection part, and every day is a new day. And it's really true. It's really what you put into it. So keep learning, and I'm going to be there to help as long as I can.
Love that.
No, that is awesome. And is there anything specifically that you would have that you could give a phrase or something to technicians that are out in the field that would help them with that educational process?
Oh, they're all out there, right? Keen observer, and all of those. I love Bobby Corrigan using the Sherlock Holmes one, which is, your job is to see what others overlook. Yeah. Right? That's your job. Yeah. Your job is to see. It's to see that one branch that's touching the structure, or that one entry point that they just missed because you knew enough about their biology. So see what others overlook. That's our job.
Oh, that is awesome. Awesome. That is great. Well, Sylvia, thank you so much. We don't want to take up too much more of your time. Is there anything else that you would love to leave with these people listening to the podcast?
No, I'm just, thank you for having me. I appreciate this. I appreciate you guys. I didn't know what I was getting into. And so I did my research, and I'm like, this is great. I'm excited that you guys are out there doing this. And again, thank you so much for reviewing the West Coast Rodent Academy. I was laughing last night when I was listening to the last one finally, because I was like, oh my God. And it's so funny because it's like, oh, this girl, Sylvia Kenmuir from BASF. And I'm like, that's me.
You're like, that's me.
That's awesome. No, and thank you so much for listening and coming on. And Sylvia, we are definitely going to keep your information. Yes. We are going to reach out to you in the future. We want you back on. And we're coming to New York, so you better invite us.
We're definitely doing that for sure.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Sylvia, and you have a wonderful day.
Okay, you too. Take care.
All right.
That was so fun.
Yeah, no, that was awesome. Thank you, Sylvia, for everything, for coming on, being part of this. There's so much that everyone can learn from, and it doesn't just stop, with, the podcast is one, but go out in the field, experiment, have fun with it, do everything that you can with it. It's just, there's so much information. Yeah. It just doesn't stop.
Absolutely. And, if you haven't listened to the West Coast Rodent Academy, both of them, please go back and listen to it. Those are some of my favorite episodes too, because that episode was sort of when I just started jumping on the podcast, and started, putting some of this stuff out there. And I really meant that. Like, we don't really put anything out or push anything that we don't really believe in. And I took so much from that. And, it's funny that she mentioned, Sylvia, the introverted extrovert or extroverted introvert.
Yeah.
Because it's so true. Just bringing together different ideas, different backgrounds when you're able to collaborate and see stuff. And even the Rodent Academy itself, yes, the content was fascinating, right? And I took so much from it that I'm, been applying and using for training and things like that. But more of it's just like a mindset shift too. It's like, even if you think, there's, like the Sherlock Holmes things, it's to see what others don't see, and doing quality control. It just relays over so much time and time again, some of the principles that they went over there. So point is, go to Rodent Academy.
Yeah, honestly, but that's what we've been preaching, right? I mean, we've been talking about it the entire time. It's about the knowledge. It's about learning everything. It's about expanding what you already know or what you think you know, which is probably wrong, you know? And in my case, you know, that's exactly what happened. Is some of the stuff I was doing, and she had a good point. I was doing it right. You know, it was correct like decades ago. It just isn't correct today.
Yeah.
You know, so that's where you need to step out from that. You know, we had a conversation recently. Technician's been here. He's seen some of the past, and family members have been in the industry, and times have changed. You know, it's not the same as it used to be. You know, we're going to grow. We're going to keep moving. We're going to keep changing. There's so much there. But Sylvia is a prime example of, guys, I just learned so much from ants.
100%.
And chemicals and the chemical structure of stuff that I already thought I knew in this hour. You know, like that's what I'm talking about. You have someone who's spent 30 plus years focusing on a very specific thing, and they can bring that knowledge to us. And we just learned in an hour, 30 years of studying.
It's gold.
I mean, honestly, but that's what I mean is you can't find that talking to some old dude who's been spraying for 40 years.
Yeah.
All he's been doing is spraying for 40 years.
Yeah.
He doesn't know the chemicals. He doesn't know the insects. He knows where to spray and how to spray it. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all he knows. You go in and you talk to some of these scientists, you start to understand how it works, the biology of them, how they function.
Yeah.
Why are ants coming back? Why are you treating ants and they're coming back? I don't know.
Yeah.
Now I know.
Yeah, now I do.
Now I know exactly why we're having issues of taking care of certain, you know, species of ants.
Sure.
I know why we're having issues with carpenter ants up in this area. Now I know. Like, those are the things that are huge and you can get so much from. So I can't say it enough. Sylvia, thank you so much for coming on. I know it was kind of a last minute thing. So this was perfect. I mean, absolutely amazing. Thank you. And go listen and check out her new podcast, as well as the one that she already did for Ace, which now I'm going to go listen to.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Ace to Ace and then past the PHE.
Yeah. I think,
right.
Yeah. I think you're right. I'm not as good as Aaron on that.
No, it's all good.
I didn't remember. I just remembered Ace. But I'm going to go listen, because that is all. I mean, I can go listen to her 20 minutes for 60 episodes.
Yeah.
Hey, you got me.
I know. I had to remind myself to talk during this episode. I was just sitting there, just soaking it such good information. But like she said too, you know, when we're out there, even on the technician side, people are paying for the knowledge and expertise.
Yeah.
You know, and it shows, like, you know, from her to us, like how much time and effort and studying and trial and error she's put through. You know, it's the same thing that we have to explain to our customers. You know, we talk about it a lot, like a trapping program or something that costs a lot, and the customer's like, well, I could just do that. I'm like, well, like technically, yeah, but the reason why is because we've gone through these situations.
Yeah.
You know, just like she's gone through all these crazy situations to can pass it down. So can't stress it enough. Thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah.
But this has been a great episode for our NPMM Pest Guest Heavy Month. We are about halfway through April, so please, we're sending out invites. We actually have a Google Calendar where you can pick your time slot. So these slots are booking up. So make sure that you do that. Follow us on our Instagram, Facebook, YouTube page. Our website actually has direct links to that, where you can be a guest and fill out that questionnaire. We have episodes every Monday and Thursday. But thank you again for listening to the DNA Pest Control Podcast.